Well, you know you're in Charles Schultz's territory when you see this outside of a veterinary center. How cool is that? So what brings me to this part of St. Paul is the Lincoln Court Apartments. It was early 1934. The Ramsey County Grand Jury had been commissioned to look into allegations that the St. Paul Police Department here in Minnesota was actually creating a haven for hardened criminals like John Dillinger. The report said that there was no basis for that allegation whatsoever. But on March 31st, 1934, when they were releasing that report saying there was no such corruption going on, John Dillinger was here shooting it out with FBI agents. Join us as we talk about that incident on this episode of History Hunters. Now, allegedly, John Dillinger's apartment was that corner window right there. Third floor, room 303. He was staying here with his girlfriend. Now, how is it that John Dillinger was here? Well, he had escaped from a jail in Indiana on March 3rd, 1934, and he reunited with members of his gang here in the Twin Cities. And from a number of hideouts, Dillinger and his gang committed a number of bank robberies across the Midwest. On March 19th, Dillinger and his longtime girlfriend, Evelyn Frechette, used fake names to rent apartment number 303 at the Lincoln Court Apartments here, just a block south of the Grand Avenue in Lexington. The two were suspicious because they always came and went through the back door and refused to let the maintenance worker into their apartment to fix the bathroom fixture. So the landlord called the FBI to look into their tenants' strange behavior. Allegedly, she would come out on the front lawn and hang Dillinger's laundry wearing a halter top and short shorts. Two federal agents and a St. Paul police detective staked out the building on the evening of March 30th, unaware that they were surveilling the most wanted criminal in the country.
What is up with you? Say it.
Cute dog. No, I'm from California. And
okay.
She's
from Florida.
Oh, wow.
This one, yeah. Come on.
Wow.
Okay. Then you can just go straight up or whatever.
Okay.
But you're gonna have to go on the other side.
All right. That was. How do you get through?
You just
Okay. Thanks so much. Kind gentleman let me in. We're gonna go up to the third floor and see the place where the shootout was. This place is very old. Alright. It was room 303 where John Dillinger was staying. The bullet hit down here. There's 304. Oh, here it is. 303. John Dillinger room. FBI agents came to this door, knocked on it. Miss Frechette, I believe it was her name. She came out, peeked her head out, said, "Just a minute, I need to get dressed." John Dillinger pops out the door and starts shooting down this way. The FBI agents were down this way. But that's the John Dillinger room. A local newspaper ran this photo showing how the apartment looked after Dillinger and Frechette left in a hurry. The shootout in this hallway involved Dillinger and accomplice Homer Van Meter exchanging gunfire with 3 law enforcement agents. It's believed that Van Meter charged down this hallway with guns blazing to force federal agent R.C. Coulter down the stairs I just came up. Dillinger then fired his machine gun towards City Detective Henry Cummings, who ducked into the stairwell. The door at the end of the hallway was hit 14 times. The doors of 303 and 304 were sprayed with bullets as well. None of the officers were hit, but Dillinger was struck in the leg by a bullet. So after the shooting, John Dillinger and his two accomplices come down, running down this way. I don't think there's any evidence of the bullets today. I'm sure they've changed things since then. But John Dillinger And his two accomplices come running down this way out the back, down this flight of stairs. Come running out these doors right here. The shootout continues. There was a boy up there in that house. He sees John Dillinger, and he recognizes him. And then he actually has a shotgun or something under his bed, and he's ready to take aim at John Dillinger out here, who's shooting it out with FBI agents. And at that point, his mother walks in the room, says, "What are you doing?" Takes the gun away from him and prevents him from shooting John Dillinger right here on the spot. Now, the trio made their way up to Wisconsin, and that was their great getaway. And then from that point on, later in the year, John Dillinger was actually executed out in front of a theater. Now, his escape and the manhunt that followed led to front pages of the city's newspapers for about a week. John Herbert Dillinger was a notorious gangster during the Great Depression and was accused of robbing 12 banks and 4 police stations. Dillinger was imprisoned several times and escaped twice. He was charged but not convicted of murdering an East Chicago, Indiana police officer who shot Dillinger in his bulletproof vest during a shootout. It was the only time that Dillinger was charged with homicide. Dillinger was raised by a strict father after his mother died when he was 4. He became rebellious as a teenager, quick to fight and bully smaller children, and willing to steal for what he wanted. He quit school to go to work, but quickly believed that stealing would be better. His first arrest came in 1922 for stealing a car. After a short time in the Navy, he deserted ship and fell into a life of crime. In 1924, Dillinger and a friend attempted to rob a store owner in his hometown of Mooresville, Indiana. During the robbery, Dillinger struck the victim in the head with a machine bolt wrapped in cloth and carried a gun which, although it discharged, hit no one. A local pastor identified the two and both were arrested. Dillinger was convicted of assault and battery with intent to rob and conspiracy to commit a felony. John Dillinger Sr. was certainly not the first parent who was in denial about his child's propensity for violence and criminal ways.
In a letter I got from John from Lima, Ohio, he said, "Dad, don't believe half that's in the newspapers, for it isn't so." And says, "I haven't hurt anybody." And even if he has robbed a bank or two, about John's escape from Crown Point, I think he just watched for a chance. He wanted to get away because they're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill.
It is so cool to think of the history that happened right here. John Dillinger almost met his fate from a young boy who recognized him as America's #1 wanted criminal. Could have ended right here, but it didn't. Now, I have no way of knowing which way Dillinger escaped. If he escaped out this way, out the back alley, that way towards that street, or if he came out this street here. But anyway, they made their getaway. But today, something like that never would have happened. They would have got their man. Dillinger could have gone back here, or he could have gone back here. Dillinger, Frechette, and Van Meter escaped to the Little Bohemia Lodge in Wisconsin. Authorities would engage in a botched raid and gun battle on April 23, 1934. One agent and a tavern customer were killed, but all the gangsters got away. In an attempt to change their looks in May, Dillinger and Van Meter underwent painful plastic surgery in Chicago and spent the next month recuperating at the home of a bar owner. After that, it was right back to robbing banks. On June 30th, the Dillinger gang robbed a bank in South Bend, Indiana, where Officer Harold Wagner was killed and $30,000 was stolen. Dillinger's July 4th move to the apartment of a brothel owner named Anna Sage would prove to be his undoing. The Romanian native was facing deportation and came up with the idea to turn in Dillinger to the FBI in exchange for not being deported. FBI agent Melvin Purvis agreed to do all that he could, but made no promises. Dillinger himself was not taken alive. Sage tipped off authorities that he would be watching Manhattan Melodrama, a movie starring Clark Gable, at the Biograph Theater in Chicago on the night of July 22, 1934.
One last bet. You know my yacht, the Lady Luck?
I've heard about it.
I'll play it against the 40,000. It's worth a lot more.
Spin it. I'm on the yacht.
When he and his party left the theater, Dillinger was shot in a nearby alleyway. I have no idea how old these apartments are, but they must be at least 100 years old, considering that Dillinger was staying here in 1934. So at least 90 years old that we know of. I was so fortunate that I caught a resident. He was out here going to take his dogs out to let them relieve themselves. And when I told him what I was doing, he was a little apprehensive about letting me in the building. But he did let me in the building, and I'm very grateful for him. So if you're watching this, sir, thanks so much. And there he goes. There is no historical plaque at this site, which means you have to know the local history to have a clue as to the 1934 shootout that happened on the 3rd floor. I think that's really cool. I mean, if you're into crime history and annals of crime of the United States, John Dillinger is about tops. And the fact that he lived here and was living undercover, under the radar of the FBI, is kind of amazing when you think about it. You just, when you're in this neighborhood, it looks very peaceful, very upscale. But to think all this happened right here, incredible. At the Cook County Morgue, Dillinger's body was placed on display like a trophy behind glass for public gawking. It's estimated that 15,000 curiosity seekers braved triple-digit heat to view the corpse during a 2-day macabre spectacle. John Dillinger Sr. had traveled from Mooresville, Indiana to Chicago to accompany the body of his son in a hearse. It was a searing hot day as the hearse and funeral party made a stop at a roadside rest in Morocco, Indiana, on July 24, 1934, to permit the father of the slain desperado to get some relief from the intense heat. Once in Mooresville, the body was prepared at the Harvey Funeral Home. Dillinger was laid to rest in the Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis next to his mother, Molly. His father later joined him. His grave is well visited, as evidenced by how his marker has been chipped away by souvenir seekers. I drove to the Wabasha Street Caves along the Mississippi River, where Dillinger and other gangsters reportedly frequented and where bootlegged alcohol was stored. Unfortunately, it was on a day when the caves weren't open. The Wabasha Street Caves were carved out of sandstone and date back to the 1840s. In the 1920s, the caves were used as a restaurant and nightclub venue known as the Wabasha Street Speakeasy. The Speakeasy was said to have been frequented by gangsters such as John Dillinger and Ma Barker. Throughout history, the caves have been used for a number of different activities, including growing mushrooms, storage of food and belongings, music, and dancing. On October 26, 1933, the caves became the Castle Royale, which were closed in the late 1930s due to the start of World War II, and went back to primarily being a place to grow mushrooms. Sometime in the 1930s, Castle Royale 2 was opened as a venue for disco music. This is Dillinger's Hudson Essex Terraplane. I'm assuming this is that car. You may be asking what became of Billie Frechette? She was arrested by the FBI on April 9, 1934, as Dillinger watched helplessly. He drove around the block several times before Pat Sherrington, the girlfriend of Dillinger gang member John Hamilton, convinced him that he would be killed if he tried to rescue Frechette. Dillinger cried like a baby when his woman was captured. Frechette served 2 years in federal prison for harboring a criminal. She remarried and became the wife of Art Tick. She died on an Indian reservation in January 1969, not in 1970 as her marker states, and is buried in the Woodlawn Cemetery of Shawano, Wisconsin. She never regretted being Dillinger's girl. Thank you again for watching this episode of History Hunters. If it's not too much trouble, could you please leave us a comment and let us know what you thought of this episode? If you could also subscribe to History Hunters and hit the notification bell, that would help the reach of this channel. Tell your friends about History Hunters.